My last my oh
Hello, it is June 22nd, 2023, and we are the Peaceful Empowerment Work Show live on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I am your co-host Judy Forder, and I am here with my co-host in peace, Kris Burke.
Hi everybody.
Today's stepping beyond the prison of shame. Dun dun dun. That's
Yeah, wow. This is a big one.
Yeah, it's a very big one. It's a very big one.
Yeah.
In discussions yesterday planning for the show, it was difficult to find a lower frequency vibrational emotion that didn't begin with shame.
Right, exactly. And maybe just to kind of frame it up, you know, a lot of us think that I know a lot of people say, I don't feel shame, right? I don't have any shame. Uh, but actually, there are a lot of emotions and a lot of things that we can be doing in our lives that we're focusing on in an attempt to avoid the shame that's under the surface.
Mhm.
So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. I actually probably a lot about that today, right?
Yes. Well, we'd like to pull up the map
Yeah, that's a great idea.
and refresh about the map again and see where all this fits in.
Yeah, fantastic. I kind of love this.
It's got some fancy new things on it, I see.
It does. It does. Yeah. So, first of all, let's start out with this is kind of referencing this book, Power versus Force, or it's a whole series of books by Dr. David R. Hawkins. And the subtitle of this is The Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior. So the map that we've kind of overlaid, and I'm just going to hold this up, but I don't need to be bigger. This map of consciousness that's pretty well known in a lot of places now. It kind of overlaid it on this map. It's something that we had our map with the four realms, and then we came across this map with this level of detail about the emotions. And when it lined up so perfectly, it's just one more piece of evidence that, like, oh, the inspiration that we're receiving, the ideas that are coming to us, that we're developing in the form of maps and models and tools, are right in alignment with other pieces of inspiration that other people have gotten that are really helping humanity to heal and to step into our true authentic selves. So we just wanted to show kind of that layer on this map because it adds a level of insight and tangibility, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like it really grounds it.
Yeah.
It gives it you're gonna hate me saying this, but it brings it more mainstream.
Yes. Yes. Right. It's so true because we're all, we're not, most of us aren't normally regularly talking about our instincts and intellect and intuition and inspiration in a way of like, well, which energy am I feeling today and which one am I expressing? That's not really the way we normally talk. But we do talk about the emotions that we see listed here. Yeah, and you will notice that between the zone 1, the red, and the intellect, zone 2, yellow, fear and anxiety are there in orange. And they are kind of a bridge between being an instinct when it's just down, energy, when it's heavy. We might call it depression. We might call it overwhelm. Like, I'm just getting through my day just feels hard because I feel heavy, overwhelmed, bogged down, right? Burdened. And then there's this point when we're in fear and anxiety, and a lot of people end up coming to us to take our class when they're in this fear and anxiety state, and they're like, yeah, I can't live like this anymore. And so that fear and anxiety can actually be a gift that helps you to, take action and connect with what is it that I need instead of anxiety in my life.
Yeah, I have found many clients come to me when they're in that space because they're finally tired of their own bullshit,
Yeah.
to put it just bluntly.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
continue like this. I don't know what to do. I need help.
Hmm. Yeah. There's got to be something more, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, yeah. So interestingly, Judy and I were talking about this, shame and pride on the left-hand side from the bottom, the very bottom of zone one instincts to the very top of zone two intellect is the shame to pride scale or span. Um, and a lot of us in this, our mainstream society, a lot of people um, are pretty well engaged in the trying to achieve or attain pride in order to, as we've said before, avoid or escape a lot of those feelings and emotions that happen at the lower levels that feel just frankly really uncomfortable.
Yes. And uncomfortable is a nice way to put it.
Hmm.
Nice way to put it. And it was funny when we were discussing this yesterday. I just kept seeing a ladder, like steps out. But for me, and I, in my experience, kept tying back any emotion there was. Like there's guilt. Okay, so I'm blaming somebody, but I shouldn't blame somebody. I should blame myself. Should. Um, I'm feeling hopeless and all these different things. Well, I shouldn't feel that way. I'm still feeling grief and regret. Well, I shouldn't feel grief and regret. When you should yourself, that's the shame.
Right.
When you should others, that's the shame.
Right.
So if
Yeah.
you look back in your life and identify all the places that I should. I want chicken tenders, but I should eat a salad. It's cold and rainy outside today. I should get up and clean the house, but I really just want to stay in bed and read.
Hmm.
The shoulding, I just keep saying the shoulding is the finger pointing.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah, and that's
Yeah.
what invokes for me. That's what invokes that feeling of shame.
Yeah. Well, and it's probably what put us in that experience anyway, right? So that as a child, you follow your natural tendencies. So if you see a, pile of puppies, you're going to run and start touching puppies, and your parents or other people may have grabbed you and said, "No, don't touch." Right? You have to ask first. And so it's like, "Oh, my natural desire, being drawn towards something cute and fluffy and just acting on that isn't okay. I got scolded for that. My parents were displeased with me. And so I might get a little packet of shame that I pack away in my unconscious with a note to myself, don't do that again."
Mhm. Which
Right?
draws an interesting question because there are things that lessons need to be learned for our safety.
Mhm.
So is that a huge, I'm going to need intensive therapy to relieve that little packet of shame? Who knows? It all depends on what you build on top of it.
Exactly.
What experiences we have that help reinforce and make that packet bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And the way it's delivered, right? Intent is such a big deal because if someone says, "Oh, those puppies are so cute and what a wonderful thing to go play with them." And right now, because they belong to somebody else, we need to ask first.
Mhm.
That's not going to build a mountain of shame.
No.
But often, um, the adults around us can be ashamed because they have their own shame. They can be ashamed of their children's behavior. because they want their children to represent them well. They want everybody to know that they're a good parent and they raise good children. And all of this goes back many generations. We did not start this, guys, but we, we can end it, but we did not start it. So we don't need to feel ashamed of the shame that we adopted and that we passed on. I certainly passed it along. So, it's just part of what it is to be Judy saying, yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, the way to free ourselves from that is to really just acknowledge, like, wow, there were a lot of instances where I shamed my children because I hadn't actually relieved my own shame. I hadn't healed my own shame. And so I was expressing what was actually in me. And I kind of dropped it on my kids.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, something as simple as, if there's any teachers out there, maybe you can relate. I was a teacher for 24 years, and when I had Maddie and noses, snot, all that kind of stuff as a PE teacher, I was like, "Bah!" So when she would get all snotty, I would work with her blowing her nose. And when she would fight me, I would say, "You don't want to be that kid. You don't want to be that kid in class that always has boogers in their nose." Totally shaming. Totally shaming. She is the best one-handed nose blower in the world, though.
It should be an Olympic sport.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's so funny because when I started to work with my shame, things like that came up, like, "Oh my gosh, look at what you did just for blowing her nose. Look at what you did. You
Yeah.
don't want to be that kid."
Right. Right. Exactly. We did that. And we passed on what we knew.
Mhm.
Right? We acted out the patterns. And how many of us have said, "Oh my God, I never thought I would say what my parents said to me or what my guardian said to me." And we hear the same words coming out of our mouths and we're just, but that's how it works.
Yeah.
We adopt what we observe and experience,
Mhm.
and it goes into the unconscious, and we act it out when our unconscious deems it appropriate if we are in zone 1 or 2.
Mhm.
Because when we're in zone 1 or 2, what comes up to be expressed is what our unconscious thinks is appropriate. We don't get a say because we're not really present in a powerful way um, in those circumstances when we're in that energy.
Yeah, and Kris and I were talking about the class, Masterful You, Own Your Experience. And it was in that first class that I came ready to deal with my finances because I had issues with
Right.
my relationship with money. I came from a family that was, lower middle class, but I would watch my parents once a month pay bills and just be so stressed. So that relationship was stressed. My relationship with money was stressed. And, you know, uh, I had a full belief that, this was the one last big hurdle that I had to cross. And 3 weeks into the class, it like smacked me upside the head that it wasn't money, it was shame. I carried a lot of shame for not having the money.
Mhm.
And then that just kicked open the door to everything else. Everywhere else I was still carrying shame in my life. So, it and it's funny, the topic is breaking free from the prison or stepping beyond the prison. I literally felt like I kicked open the door. And
Yes.
at first it didn't feel very nice because then I was dealing with all these areas I thought I had worked through before where there was still shame existing. And but once you see the truth of it, you can deal with it.
Yes.
And I really,
Yeah.
that was my first step. Once I saw that shame was the root of the issue everywhere, then I could deal with the origin of it, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that I don't still carry shame. There are times I still shame myself, but I'm aware of it. And I can either choose to sit in it in that moment, or I can choose to do something different. So, so much of this work is just simply awareness and realizing that you have choices.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And let's talk about awareness for a minute. So if you look at it's a nice segue into the right-hand side of the screen or the maps. Um, Zone 3 and zone 4, at the top of zone 4, you see peace, right? And at the bottom there, we see courage. When we have the courage to explore the possibility that we are playing some role in the experience of our lives, right? When we have the courage to look at ourselves. And in this world where there's so much shame and there's such a desire to put the shiny image of ourselves, portray that to the world, whether it's true or not, just to portray this shiny, flawless version, which is actually quite inhuman, to the world, then it's actually pretty hard to say, I'm going to look at some of the stuff that this world considers to be unacceptable, right? About myself. That takes courage.
Absolutely.
And so what Judy was saying about looking at that shame and saying, oh my gosh, it was that. Well, she had the courage to look and she trusted that it would bring her something good, something healing. And she had the willingness to participate in the process. And as she went through that, she accepted and forgave herself for having had this shame. Right? And not just forgave herself, but we have to forgive the people who introduced us to the shame as well. And recognize that, they were as unconscious about that whole process as we were. Right? So that reason and understanding bridge between kind of intuition and inspiration is when we're at reason and understanding, it's exactly what Judy just said, we're aware. We're paying attention. We're thinking. We are participating in deciding what's going to happen as a response to what's going on in our lives right now, as opposed to just acting something out and then saying, blaming somebody for what we've said or done.
Or beating ourselves up for what we've said or done.
Yeah.
Inflicting ourselves with wounds of shame even deeper. So, it really does. It is scary to take a mirror and look at your life and realize that you have a lot more control than what you think. You have a lot more influence in the experiences of your life than what you think. And you have the power to change your experiences based on how you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's some pretty heavy shit.
It is.
We're moving through this. And that's why it's so important that you surround yourself with people that support you and lift you up.
Yeah, absolutely. And this book, Power versus Force, I kind of love this because he talks about how it's all force. We're trying to force ourselves. When we're living in zone 1 or zone 2, we're trying to force ourselves to do whatever it is that we think we need to do to get to closer to pride, basically, which means further away from our shame, to feel better about ourselves, to overcome our insecurity. And, if we live in a world where a lot of people would say, I'm not insecure. But if we haven't been on that self-discovery process, it's pretty much in there somewhere. It's just the world that we live in says if you have straight hair, you should have curly hair. And if you're tall, you should be short. And if you're short, you should be tall. And if you're male, you should be female. And, it's whatever you are isn't right. And as you're going through the aging process and watching yourself watching yourself age, we even in our society bring on the shame about the fact that you're now looking older than you did when you were younger, because you are in fact older than you were
When you were young.
when you were younger. Yes. So we shame ourselves about the reality that, me at this age looks different than me at 12 or me at 30 or whatever. We have a comment. Yeah.
Dawn says, I always questioned whether my message was worthy enough to share. Yes, because very much we were told children are to be seen and not heard. So at what point do we finally realize that, hey, maybe we do have something worthy of sharing?
Yeah.
If it's not encouraged.
Absolutely. And thank you, Dawn, for that. So often when I'll talk about my experience a little bit as a woman. I lived in a family where, the men and the women were on different levels. And, that was pretty clear. So the guys did all the heavy thinking, and the women did the work. And I'm not going to say like the men didn't do didn't work, because of course they did.
It
But I
was different
mean,
work.
it was different work. But the women did, I remember on holidays, the men sitting around and, having a drink and relaxing, and the women scurrying around like crazy people who also worked, by the way, doing taking care of the kids and cooking the meals and providing everything for the guys. And, I remember thinking as a child, like, this seems a little unfair to me. And that, because that was part of, for a lot of people, it still to this day in my family, in my community, more precedence or importance is given to what men think than what women share. I know. I hope I don't like stir up a whole, but I hope nobody's like terribly surprised by that. But it's been a reality in my world.
Well, and then you chose to be a consultant in a man's world.
I did.
You, you were determined to have your voice be heard and mean something.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And being intuitive, right? This is the thing. It's called women's intuition for a reason. We're more connected generally to our intuition. And I also think part of that is because, men, I'm not saying I think it's easier to be a man. Don't get me wrong. It was just from the female experience, it was something I noticed, because men aren't allowed to feel or express their emotions. And I can't even imagine what it would be to try to deny all of that energy inside of me. So I'm not saying I think it's easier. But being intuitive, because I did have access to my emotions, I was told I was too sensitive. I'd have to grow thicker skin. I mean, all of these other things. But because I did have access to my emotions, my intuition was intact. And I would watch things that were happening, and I would think, I think we're making it harder on ourselves over there than we need to, because we're saying something that we don't actually mean. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it happens a lot. Like if people feel threatened in the workplace, so I was a business consultant. So if people feel threatened in the workplace, which means I could get fired if I don't do my job well enough, or if a consultant comes in and says I'm not good at my job, I could lose my job. They go right to zone 1, and they become literally unable to function. Right? That's what I did. I actually went in and rescued giant failed system implementations. And the way I would do it, I looked like I was doing magic, because they would spend like a year trying to get this thing done and it wouldn't move. And then I would walk in and just be nice and honest to the people, and we'd have it done in weeks. Seriously, I would flat out say to them, I'm not here to get you to lose your job. I'm here to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And coming from the teacher world, depending on what administrators and supervisors you've had, they could be very supportive. And if they feel they saw an area that needed improvement, support you in improving that area. Or you had the administrators and supervisors that they would use that against you to make your life a living hell.
Right. Right.
And
Exactly.
I experienced both. More of the latter, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Supportive.
Yeah. Because, and this is an interesting, because a lot of people, especially in positions of authority or power, are kind of on the pride path.
Mm-hmm.
They want achievement. And it's not to put achievement down. Achievement, I've achieved a lot of things in my life that I think are just fantastic, and, feel good about that. I don't think it's bad to achieve. I think it's really healthy for humans to achieve. But if the reason for achieving is so that we think other people will think better of us, so that then if they think better of us, we can actually feel better about ourselves, the problem with that is it's a trap.
That's ego.
Mm-hmm.
That's all ego.
It doesn't actually work. It doesn't matter how other people see us, frankly. Um, if we don't fundamentally know that we are a worthy human being who is perfect as we are, given where we've been and the experiences that we've had and conclusions we've drawn. If we don't fundamentally know that, no amount of people telling you how fantastic you are can change that feeling of there's something fundamentally wrong with me.
No, because you're always going to feel, if I could just have that, then I can feel good about myself. If I could just do this, then I could feel good about myself. When your relationship with yourself is dictated by external validation, whether it be through people or through things that you can acquire, material things, that's always ego running your show.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about all of the celebrities who have, gone on to have what we would all think were the absolute dream lives, and then they self-destructed, right? What we're seeing is this idea that, oh, if I just got to the top, if I just won the game, if I just, if I got what everybody wants, then I would feel comfortable in my skin. I would finally feel what people are looking for is peace. Because the absence of shame and guilt and apathy and all of these other things is actually peace.
I think that's a perfect place for us to take a little break.
Absolutely.
This Peaceful Empowerment Work Show. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm John Thomas. I want to share with you a professional products and services directory we call Going Solo Directory. And you need to check this out. If you want exposure to your business or are seeking professional product or services, this directory has it all. And that membership, for the many special features, you get the benefit of a worldwide exposure with a 40-minute video interview on an international business show showcase. All this for just one low annual fee. For more information, contact GoingSoloDirectory.com.
Welcome back to the Peaceful Empowerment Work Show. And to recap the first portion of the show, I can't even tell you. We are your co-hosts, Kris, Burke, and Judy Forder, co-founders of Masterful U at www.masterfulu.com. That's www.masterfulu.com.
Yeah, you do that so much better than I do.
I was just the music of the commercial. I was like, oh, we're back.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Yeah. And, we were just talking about stepping beyond the prison of shame and how often we've been confused in our society that if we could achieve enough pride, that we would escape our shame. But what we're actually looking for, and people have discovered this, for thousands of years and talked about it and written about it and sung about it and painted about it. What we're really looking for is peace of mind, peace in our body, peace in our soul, in our hearts. And so this is, talking about peaceful empowerment is about making peace in your mind and body, in your experience, your priority, because from there, you don't need to chase anything. You don't need something to prove to you or anybody else that you're good enough. You can, from that place of peace, choose what lights you up. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. And how many times do we think that I needed to be something instead of just being who we are? Yes, absolutely. Dawn, that leads right into what I was just going to say, because
Perfect.
we were speaking about, and thank you for your comment, Dawn. We were talking about how growing up, our family influences where we feel shame and how we feel shame and how it's processed. And we didn't talk about society.
Right.
I mean, when you look at what we are seeing, the diet and exercise industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Well, if what they were doing worked, they wouldn't make so much money off of it and it wouldn't keep going,
That's right.
And they get us to engage because they get us to be ashamed of how we look.
Right.
And when you think of all of the influences out there, we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough. Just like Kris, you were saying, if we have curly hair, we need straight hair. If we're thin, we need to be muscular. We need to be this, we need to be that. And that's not just females, that's everybody.
Yeah.
Male and female all around are feeling these same things and getting these same influences, and my daughter laughs at me because there's one song out there. I don't even know who sings it, but it's called Victoria's Secret. And she's writing about, she knows the secret. Victoria's Secret was made up by a dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, one of the things is making money off of girls like me, cashing in on body issues, selling skin and bones and big boobs. They put this image out there, and every female feels that's what they need to live up to. That's what they need to be, or they're not enough. Mm-hmm. And then not only every female, but every male is like, ooh, I want a Victoria's Secret model.
Right. Right.
And then they put these pictures of muscly cut men, and the women are like, ooh, I want a man like Hercules. Hercules.
Yeah.
So we get a distorted image of we it's almost like we lose what real is.
Absolutely we do. And what's interesting? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so if we're not that, it stirs up that ball of shame.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it's interesting if you watch little kids, which, running around on the beach, and they're running around with their little belly, popped out, right? And that's like everybody has a little bit of a belly there. And it was interesting as I was working on my journey and I started changing, my energy started shifting. I started spending more time in intuition and whatnot. I noticed that my stomach started changing and getting a little fuller. And there was this sense of like, yeah, because my intuition, people say, listen to your gut, because my intuitive energy actually lives in my stomach. And if I suck my stomach in, which is what we're all doing all the time, they've done studies where they said, if we're in front of people, we're all, sucking that stomach in. That if we're doing that, we're actually making it, we're like jamming the intuitive energy flow.
We're making it small.
Yes. Yes, literally. And so just realizing, when I realize that, I don't suck my stomach in for anybody. I'm like, nope, that's my intuitive home base, and I need that to be open and accessible. Yeah.
I have a lot of intuition.
Yeah, that's right. I kind of wanted to make t-shirts that were like intuitive central, right? And just point to, yeah. Not like baby on board, but that was a different decade. But, intuition on board, like that is where that intuitive energy, we really need that access to that intelligence, that form of intelligence. And it is centered in our stomachs. So, does it have to be a certain size? I don't know. But the shaming around the stomach, no. that's marketing. That's somebody wanting to sell you something to get you to think that how you are isn't okay, so you have to buy something to change. Um, and that's just, well, that's bullshit.
Yes. And again, zone one, and when we're in zone one, we can't think.
No.
We can't think. We can't think critically. We can't. It keeps us in a loop. And I've had, quite a few clients reach out to me this week. And I don't know if you want to get into summer solstice or not, but the energy right now, it's like all of a sudden I was engaged in rage and I didn't know why.
Mm-hmm.
And I laugh and I say, I can pretty much pinpoint the time the rage dropped into me and ignited.
Yeah.
And it was Monday at 4 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I just anger, frustration, sadness, sorrow, deep sorrow and grief, and all these emotions, and I didn't know where they came from, why. And then you settle in, and you get some readings from amazingly in touch people that help give you a heads up of, hey, this is what's going on. Because I, oddly enough, went to that space of shame. Like, what is this? What's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? You shouldn't. There's the should. Don't should yourself.
Right.
You should be handling this better. You should know what's going on. So it was just the awareness of, this is what the energy right now is pushing out. It's pushing all of this zone one energy, zone one emotions to the surface. Right. For us to see it, honor it, and let it go.
Yeah,
we're clearing
absolutely.
out. We're making more room for good stuff to come.
Absolutely.
Don't be consumed in the whys and what it is. Honor it, give it voice in whatever way is right and perfect for you to express your anger. Do so. Don't take it out on anybody else, and don't self-harm.
Yeah.
Me, I have a punching bag. I beat the shit out of a punching bag with a wiffle ball bat. Mm-hmm. My mother did that. It's the only reason we're still alive. I know it, me and my siblings, because Mom wore out 2 Fat Albert wiffle ball bats on one of the house supports in the basement. I'm convinced it's the only reason we're still alive.
That's great. Louise Hay did that. She used to say she would take at the end of her sort of journey, as she was writing her first book, You Can Heal Your Body, I think was the first one. She said she was in the woods, like beating on trees, just to get, because the anger, to step back a little bit, the peace is already in us, right? It's just covered up under layers of things that we were told throughout our lives that were wrong with us, that we believed, and then we started collecting evidence to reinforce that belief. So there's a lot of stuff in there, but the peace is underlying it all. And so when we start to set the intention that we want to feel that peace and live from that place and be that person in the world, that version of ourselves in the world, anything that doesn't fit with that peace, all of the masks, all of the untruths that are on top of it start coming up to be released. Yeah.
And that's what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, exactly.
It was funny because, yes, we're born into this world in a state of peace. Mm-hmm. As crazy and chaotic as birth can be, that's what we hold. That's our frequency. That's our vibration. Peace, love, joy, truth. Mm-hmm. And then for me, I see like shame is the root of all evil.
It's what they said in the Bible.
Yeah, shame is that place where, shame is that first little taste of self-doubt. And then everything else just piles on top of it.
Yeah, and even a little more than self-doubt, it's like self-hatred. Mm-hmm. Because somebody just looked at you and didn't see your perfection. Mm-hmm. And that can sound kind of out there because we live in, the world we live in. And we've been here for a while, probably, if we're watching the show. But actually, each of us is absolutely a perfect version of who we are, given the journey we've been on and the choices we made and the experiences that we've had. And, it's in every moment we can decide that we want something better, that we want to feel, change our experience, that we want to own our experience and live from a place of peace and joy. as real tangible things, not as, not as like, oh yeah, yeah, no, I'm great, but is actual, joy is actually, yeah, I have no worries. I trust myself and the people that I include in my life and the universe to deliver what's for my highest good. And I trust that because, well, I experience it every day. So after time, it's kind of hard. Even my ego was super, like super strong militant ego. Over time, even it, kind of had to say, okay, I guess you have a point. It does seem to keep working out.
Let it go.
Yeah.
I keep hearing, are there some steps we can give them to stepping beyond the prison of shame? I would like step number 1, acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Acknowledge the truth that it exists.
Yes. And, and I'm going to say, ask for help. I first experienced peace for the first time as an adult when I, when I said, if this is all there is to life, you can have it. I'm not interested. And if there's something more, please show me. And this peace descended upon me. So I've come, in helping lots of people, on their journeys, we have learned that if you ask for help, it's almost like the whole universe is just sitting there waiting for you to just say, okay, I don't know what to do. Will you show me what peace looks like? Will you show me what to do? And the answers come rushing in, often from unexpected places.
Yes. Yes. As soon as we ask for help, the celebrations begin.
Yeah.
Because the help is there.
Yeah. I can feel that. Like my I'm getting goosebumps. It's like your cells start celebrating that instead of trying to figure it out and strategizing and planning and, and carrying the worry and, all of those kinds of things, when you just kind of like throw it all off and go, I don't know. It's like, thank God, finally. Right? You don't know, which means you're receptive to listening, right? We can't hear our intuition and our inspiration and take action on it if we're so busy in our heads with the ideas, wanting to execute the ideas that we have.
Yeah. Like we say, soul doesn't battle. So
Right.
Ego's loud. Ego's loud and loves to be in control until we get it to that place of balance.
Right.
So when we talk about getting in that space of peace, when we can get that little break of peace, that allows you to hear the whispers of soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you'll feel that once. I mean, everyone that's had this experience will say, people said it to me, I didn't really believe them early on, but you'll feel that once, and that's it. You'll never, because one of the interesting things about the scale is when you get the courage to ask, there is actually an energy that starts to help you on your way toward peace. It starts to support you instead of having to fight your way toward pride like we've been doing with this kind of downward force. There's something that starts to kind of lift you up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Kris and I and all of us at Masterful U are very passionate about helping people get to this space. And like Kris has been saying, this information has been out there for thousands of years. This is just how it has come through Kris and how we have been able to shape and mold it and how we feel we can help people that it aligns with. Yeah. So there are a couple different ways that you can get our Masterful U information. And the show, 3 levels of engagement is what Kris likes to call it.
Yeah.
You can listen to this show and it's free. So every Thursday we're here live at 11. And if you can't make it at 11, you can listen to the recording. Second, we do workshops once a month.
Yes.
And then third, there is a 12-week program called Own Your Experience that we facilitate. So our next workshop is Tuesday, June 27th, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard. And you can find information at www.masterfulu.com. That's www.masterfulu.com.
Yay. Yeah, and the program, it's life-changing.
Yes.
You do in 12 weeks what it took me 15 years to do.
Yes. Yes. together, and boom. In 12 weeks, I can guarantee your life. Well, I'm going to say it. I will guarantee your life will have changed.
Yeah, we can and we do. I mean, if it doesn't, we give a instant refund, but it's never happened.
Nope. So, we're here and we need to wrap it up for today. So, thank you all for joining us. And please, if you enjoyed the show, like, comment, and share.
Yeah.
And subscribe. I always forget the subscribe one.
Yeah. You don't forget to subscribe out there.
You don't. I forget.
Yeah.
Okay. So, have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Perfect. Thanks, Judy.
Thank you, Kris.